All right, hello and welcome to the GGG podcast. I'm Paul, and this is Phil.
Hello.
what's what's going on this week, Phil?
Well, there's a couple of new releases, right? I've also been playing not a lot of the games that I've been wanting to play. I've just been like keep on trying things,
Sure,
waiting,
yeah.
waiting for something to like scratch the itch. I played a new game called Lamplighters League that I think is like a indie pre-release thing, and it's like XCOM. I think that's what I put the most time into. It's like a stealthy XCOM.
Okay, Lamplighters League, no relation to the boys or anything.
Oh no,
No
I wish.
relation to Gen V.
Gen V, which I okay. If we could, I've also watched that while playing other things,
Right
and
on.
it's pretty good.
It is pretty good. Yeah, I watched it as
Yeah.
well. Right on.
What have you been playing?
I have been still playing a little bit of Mortal Kombat, trying to make my way through the invasions mode. Making progress, but it definitely is a grind, and which fuels a little bit more of my complaints with Mortal Kombat 1. Still a really good game, would recommend it, but I don't know, the content outside of the campaign is a little lacking for me. And then still plowing away in Starfield. I know I say it every week, but I am. I am making my way through the Crimson Fleet faction quest line right now, which is pretty interesting. But it's a lot of running around and talking to people, and not a lot of shooting people, which is very surprising. But I feel like that's most of the game is running around and
Yeah.
talking to people. And then I played a little bit of Void Crew this week, the game I brought up on the last episode.
Yeah.
Been doing some co-op with friends for that, so still a fun game. Updates coming out for it on Friday. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. But
Nice.
yeah, I'm excited to do the podcast and for our viewers to like and subscribe and to follow us on Spotify and other podcast listening utilities.
Do you hear that, folks at home? If you don't like and subscribe, you're gonna disappoint poor Paul.
Yes,
Paul, show
very
him the
poor.
show him the sad eyes. And if you're listening, you can't see this, but it just oh, you can feel it. Oh, he's even doing a lip quiver. So
Gotta do lip filler.
like and subscribe, damn it.
Damn it! All right. And with that, let's get into some of the game releases. So the big one coming out tomorrow, actually, from when we're recording, is Assassin's Creed Mirage. We're going to talk about it as our main topic today. The review embargo just lifted, so we're not going to get into it too much. But, it wouldn't be October or the holiday season without an Assassin's Creed game launching. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I
trucking
think
right.
I think maybe you could make the case that like because things have been weird the past couple of years because we haven't had an Assassin's Creed like full game release in
I
October.
mean, it was just last year we didn't have an Assassin's Creed. That was the first time, right? Like
Was
the
it? I don't
feel,
know. It was Valhalla was either a year ago or 2 years ago.
it was I think it was 2021 was Valhalla.
Okay.
And
Yeah, so I guess it
so
was just last
it
year.
was just
So we didn't
last year. No Assassin's Creed. So weird. So weird. Um, but speaking of Men on Ice,
have.
NHL 24 is coming out this week. So for those hockey fans out there, I'm not really one of them. But hey, there are hockey fans, huge fans of NHL, the NHL series. And it's actually probably one of the better sports games out there, from what I have heard and how it continues to be reviewed very well. So, are you at all a fan of hockey, Phil?
I am a partial fan of hockey. I
Partial
used to
fan.
work a job where I like would record hockey games for like the local arena
Okay,
in Northern California in Stockton. But
sure. Yeah, very cold up there.
yes, it got me into the sport. I was like, oh, okay, this is actually pretty cool. But I've always heard good things. Like I've played a couple of the NHL games, just like multiplayer with friends, and those games are kind of some of the best sports games in general. Like
Yeah,
with the exception of Blitz for me, this is the one that is the most fun to play.
right on, right on. Yeah, I've played, I think maybe NHL 20, something like that. So I don't know. But yeah, I've played it a couple times. Played it with my dad. Really enjoyed it, but again, not a big hockey guy, so I couldn't tell you if it was really an excellent game. And then the last big release for this week is Detective Pikachu Returns. Pikachu's back. I know a lot of people are excited for this game. Detective Pikachu, obviously hugely popular. And I'm a little astounded as a series now, but this is the world we live in. So, are you into Detective Pikachu at all?
Well, I did see the movie Detective Pikachu,
Heck
and
yes.
it was pretty excellent. So the original game, I'm just looking this up, released February 3rd, 2016 in Japan on the 3DS eShop. So this is one of the longest, what is it, 8-year, almost 8-year cycle of release for this game.
Yeah, just like Elder Scrolls, the new Elder Scrolls that's coming out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and there was as much hype built up if you think about it.
But I mean, I probably from the success of the movie, it made it so that there was actually going to be a North American release of this game. So that's fantastic.
Yeah,
So.
I hope that it is. I'm not a big visual novel person. I feel like that's the kind of game this is. I hope that this is like everything for those people. But for me, I like dog fighting my Pokemon. I'm gonna be honest, and the game makes me feel bad about doing that. Detective Pikachu, or at least the movie did. So I'm gonna go ahead and steer clear and keep my innocence intact and think that they like to fight.
Yes, they love to. It's their choice. Yeah, completely 100% their choice.
Well, at least there's free healthcare in that world. Like I'll give them that. You just take your Pokemon.
I mean, it's a give and take. So. All right, why don't you tackle the first business on our news this week, Phil?
Yeah, well, okay, so The Last of Us multiplayer is on ice. Naughty Dog hires a bunch of contractors for a lot of their programs, and they kind of had I don't know if you call it layoff, but a parting of ways with a lot of their contractors.
Yeah.
Which isn't uncommon in the games industry, but and correct me if I'm wrong, is the reason is that The Last of Us multiplayer is on ice, or is that what people are like inferring from?
It's what people are inferring, and I think there are a couple of unconfirmed sources. But I mean, I am disappointed. I can't say that I'm surprised. The fact that The Last of Us Part 2 multiplayer, was taking this long in the first place. Like I do know that it came out during COVID. But it just feels weird that it's taken this long, and there must be something that's not working, and there must be something that they see as too big of a financial hole to really sell. And like ideally you would have launched this when the show came out and like gotten the publicity with the show. And I think like now it's not trending anymore. I don't know. It's a bunch of speculation, but for everything we can tell, they're not working on it. So.
Yeah. Well, the promises for The Last of Us multiplayer were always pretty insane. The Last of Us Part 2 multiplayer, they're like, it's going to be more or less an open world. You're like in this big city with everyone else fighting for resources. And while that is cool, and I'm like, okay, Naughty Dog, go off. You've earned the ability to do whatever you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
I do think that it maybe did just get out from underneath them. Because if you think of the original Last of Us multiplayer, it was really fun and addictive, and there was like that mode that was sort of like
factions
akin to like it was like action and then an Oregon Trail like type thing where you were getting resources to bring back to your group and level up or whatever. But the fun of it was like the moment to moment like small battles.
Yeah.
I don't know why they felt like they had to change that or release it as a separate thing, but it is a bummer to hear that it's on ice because I really wanted to see what their vision was,
Yeah, I like, for me, it sounds like they were, I mean, we really don't know what their vision was, but from everything that they described with like you're surviving this, open world with other players and whatnot, it felt very different from Part 1's multiplayer, which was very much of like, this is a match. try to win the match, and if you win the match, you get resources, and you take them back to your faction and whatnot. And like I feel like if you just expand on what you already had, just do that. Just make match types.
Yeah.
You could have one game mode where it's like everybody can equip heavy weapons, but there's no resources on the map. Or everybody starts out with nothing, and it's like like
a battle royale.
Like a battle royale. Like I feel like that translates almost perfectly. So I'm curious to see if Naughty Dog comments on this, or if Sony releases anything. Because it just seemed pretty straightforward. I don't know why. Maybe it might be there have been some rumblings of Sony, especially the game developers, fighting against games as a service, and Sony might be pushing them in that direction. So that could have been it, where Naughty Dog was like, we're not really interested in making this a service. If we have an update for it, we have an update, but we don't want to commit to, we're going to have 7 seasons and a battle pass, and here's the store, and all of that stuff,
and fun new currencies.
Yep. And if that was the case, good for you, Naughty Dog, because I don't want it as a service. If you have something new, sell it to me. Don't launch it as a service. Just Last of Us multiplayer, $30. Great, I'm in.
Boom.
Let's buy that.
Yeah. Speaking of battle passes and currencies, though,
what?
Fortnite's increasing their V-Buck pricing.
Oh my god! I just heard the Gamerverse scream.
Yeah.
But I mean, guys, LeBron James and Marvel, they need to get paid. They don't have enough money, and
I always think of 2 questions. First of all, how will this affect LeBron James' legacy? Second of all, how will it affect the economy? And realistically, this is one of the situations that could affect both.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Well, okay. So the info is it's going from $7.99 for 1,000 V-Bucks to $8.99 for 1,000 V-Bucks.
That is correct. Yes. So $1 more.
Yeah, it's still better than it was, because it used to be like 1,000 V-Bucks was $1, or 100 V-Bucks was $1. So it used to be $10, like way back in the day. Then they reduced the price because I think it's something. I think when Fortnite left the Apple Store, they made kind of a big stink about it, as well they should have, and they were like, actually they were charging us extra, which was making us drive the price up. So here's $7.99 for 1,000 V-Bucks, basically $2 off for everyone.
Yeah.
And now I think they're adjusting to inflation, which is
and I could complain about that, but I feel like everything is going up in price, and the fact that this is only going up by $1 is not unreasonable. I'm sure to people who play Fortnite very adamantly are upset. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still playing NBA 2K and I haven't spent any money on VC. I haven't spent any money, but I know it's knocking at the door. So
it's an interesting thing. I think this kind of shows how weird it is that they are citing inflation, that it's only going up $1, because I think that is not commensurate with how much they would need to increase the price by for inflation.
Yeah.
So I think this is them just doing it because they can, because let's be real, they are selling you a non-existent asset that is totally
pretty much an
ancillary. Yeah. So do you want to dress like LeBron James or John Cena or Spider-Man? Here you go.
Yep.
That's it.
Pretty much. But of course, I don't know. It's so weird how cosmetics have completely taken over gaming marketplaces, and that's all that that people really sell, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And obviously, you don't want to sell advantage, but it's just it's just a closet when you open gaming stores now. It's just a big closet. It's so funny.
It feels like the way that we fan culture is that oh, you're a fan, rep your thing, rep your team. So Fortnite's a game that a lot of people play, so it's oh, do you like anime? Do you like this? Do you like... Because I for sure bought the Miles Morales skin when that came out, because I was You know I gotta have for no other reason other than to like put it on and then lose to a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
So
that's the dream.
that's the dream.
Okay, moving right along. PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan is retiring. From everything that I've read about it, either they're doing a miraculous job in covering something up, or he's just been there for a really long time and he wants to get out while everything is nice and cozy. So Jim Ryan has been there for a long time. Everybody like they probably don't know his name, but everyone's seen his face during like E3 and like especially around like the console launches. I think he was around for the PlayStation 3, 4, and 5 console launches. I think he was quoted a lot when the PS5 was coming out during COVID and how much of a pain in the ass that was. So I think, he's just been there for a very long time. He is still technically the CEO right now. He's not going to be retiring officially until March next year. He has just announced that is when he will be leaving the company, and he is retiring. He is not going to another company.
Interesting.
So the end of an era, but I mean, he's dominated modern PlayStation. So
honestly, good on him for turning the PS3 to PS4 around, because it felt like PS3 was like the end of it all. You know, like the PS2 was amazing. PS1 like was a little console that could, and then the PS3 came out and absolutely devastated that whole generation. They barely won it back by the end, and then by the time PlayStation 4 came out, I think he was in that video where they showed like, this is how game sharing works on the PS4. Hands friend disc, you know. They nailed it, and I'm really happy to see how good PlayStation is doing, and that they are like still supplying. It's got to be partially on him to have allowed these different amazing companies that they have, like Naughty Dog or Sony Santa Monica, to just create stuff.
Yeah.
Like games as a service is definitely a thing, but I feel like it's less so on first party PlayStation games, hopefully in part due to Jim Ryan protecting them. And one way or the other, the buck stops with him, and so far the buck has stopped in a good place. So
yeah, hopefully it can continue that way. We'll see who's going to be taking over. Let's see. There's somebody announced. There's an interim person that's going to be taking over, but he's not a permanent person. So as soon as we find out who the permanent replacement will be, which will probably not be announced for several months,
that makes sense.
We will let you know.
Greg Miller.
Greg Miller.
We're just going to slide him in. Who gives a shit?
Welcome to the PlayStation podcast. It's me, Greg Miller.
That'll be pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. So we got some new details for the Meta Quest 3, which is going to be coming out next week for those VR fans out there. The Quest 3, what's his face? Zuckerberg has been building this thing up, still trying to make the Meta Quest a success. And it's like my partner has a Quest 2, which is a nice little device, and it's obviously not the most powerful VR system, but something I do like about it is just that you can use it wherever you are, and requires no setup, pretty much.
Wireless is huge. The fact that a MetaQuest has that, and then of course you can wire it to your computer for extra processing power or whatever as you go. But the fact that they gave you one that is just, oh yeah, you don't have that like notch hanging at the back of your head, kind of like pulling you in every direction. Yeah. I've been to some game trade shows where, to eliminate that, you have to set up this whole rig that basically like has a wire hanging down, holding those wires so that you don't feel encumbered. And the fact that they were able to make all of that work on a headset, granted, like you said, not the most powerful, that's pretty cool. It seems like this new one, they're going for a lot more like AR stuff. They're trying to compete, not just in the game space, but also with that Apple Vision Plus thing.
Yeah, the AR is a huge feature. It's a huge selling point of it. Now there's more cameras built into the Quest 3. So now one of the other cool things about the Quest, and I think a couple other VR headsets do this, but not all of them do. But it has cameras on it that actually let you see if like you're walking outside of the boundary or whatnot, and so you can actually see your surroundings while the VR set is on. Yeah, and which is great. And now with the extra cameras, instead of seeing everything in black and white, you can actually see it in color, and it has full utilization of AR. So it's like if we want to play a game, we could clear the coffee table and we can play a game.
Like a chessboard will appear or something.
Yeah, something like that.
That's pretty cool.
It is really cool. It kind of reminds me of Microsoft's one of Microsoft's E3 showcases with Minecraft several years ago. I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago now, maybe more. And then like that never happened. What was the name
of that thing?
It never happened though, and it was just like that was so cool. And so it's great to see that technology didn't just disappear.
The HoloLens.
Yeah.
I remember hearing some reporters like back for, I believe it was the most recent Halo, they were like put onto a mock Pelican, but they they put on a HoloLens, and like markers would appear in the HoloLens to show them where they were going to get to the like Halo event, which is pretty cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
It'd be great if consumers could try those.
Get a little bit of that, maybe. Nope, not for us. Peasants, we are.
But yeah, so it looks okay. It's a lot of AR stuff. They did a press event with IGN, which again, with these press events, you always have to be careful because they're wined and dined, and as we say, and so like a big thing is they had an emulator running on the Quest 3, and the emulator was an emulator of the Quest 2, and to show the graphical improvements between the Quest 3 and the Quest 2, and it was like, see, if it was running on the Quest 2 it would look like this, but it's like, yeah, but it's an emulator, it's not really running on the Quest 2. And so it's like, I don't know if the graphics are really that big of a leap, or if the real big difference here is just the AR stuff. I'm thinking it's mostly the AR stuff.
I mean, the price point is $499 for just the system and controllers.
Yeah,
that's not that big of a jump from $300 for like a giant leap forward in visual fidelity in my book. You know? Right.
Yeah.
So,
for me, it's like, my partner has a Quest 2. Quest 3 looks cool. Probably not going to get it though. Maybe if the Quest 4 comes along in a couple of years. It's kind of like if you have the iPhone 15, do you really need the iPhone 16, or do you wait for the 17?
You're in a gap year right now.
Yeah, it's a gap year. So,
but to devil's advocate, I think maybe we are kind of in a cool space with VR where it is new. It is like happening and like emerging in a way that consoles were 10, 15 years ago. So maybe this is the case that we'll see like the Sega Saturn to the Sega Dreamcast jump with the Quest. Like,
yeah,
it's possible. But until I try it, I feel like I'm a little skeptical on what they could do that was all that new and original for an extra $200.
Yeah, I think another huge thing is the Quest is a great option because of the price point. And now that the Quest 3 is the equivalent of a PlayStation 5, it's just like, now it's not the reasonably priced VR system that it used to be. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll be really cool. It's like I said, it's launching later or next week, so we'll see what reviews say. Cool. Speaking of launching next week, actually 2 weeks from now, the Diablo 4 Season of Blood Season 2 update is coming, and it's got the typical things that you see in the Diablo updates, just like this last season, where it's like, we're going to get you a new battle pass, there's a little bit of story content here, but the big thing that Blizzard really dove into and gave a load of details on is essentially how they are going to stop making Diablo 4 so grindy, which is a huge relief because the climb to level 50, I think, is well paced. And then after that climb, it is just so impossible to level up. And it's not impossible, but it just requires so much time. Like I have a friend,
and doing the same 3 activities.
Yes,
back to that, you know.
It's I'm gonna raid this nightmare dungeon. I'm going to kill the world boss, and I'm going to what's the like blood.
Like the
fields
blood,
of
Fields of Doom.
Whatever. It's the fields glow red, and you go and you do an event.
There's harder monsters, whatever.
Yeah. And so there's only so many things to do in the meta in Diablo to make proper use of your time. And literally all of the quality of life updates are like, we're going to make experience faster, and we're going to make the timers shorter, and all of this other stuff. They've already released a minor update that's made experience in the upper tiers a lot better. So that's good. But overall, the report is that getting from level 50 to level 100 will require 40% less time, which is a significant amount. And I think that's great that Blizzard understands that they're freaking wasting gamers' time. Because I know I got really frustrated playing that and be like, why am I not leveling up? I just did 10 dungeons and I didn't level up. So
I feel you there. I think they probably just saw the numbers absolutely take a dive, because Diablo 4 launched with some pretty impressive numbers, and the game was solid. Like the story mode and everything that you did up till then was paced so well, and the things you were doing were fun and new. But then afterwards, their end game was just kind of, like you said, so grindy that I think a lot of people bounced off. Like, even people who love Diablo could find that situation somewhere else a little better, you know? And I think a lot of people also are like, I'll come back when they figure it out, because they always figure it out. And so this is hopefully them figuring it out.
Yeah. Definitely a step in the right direction. I don't know if I'll buy the battle pass, but I'm definitely gonna go back in, make a new character, see how it is. Definitely skipping the campaign, but yeah.
I hope it's not too little, too late, because there's just, like we said, so many good things to play right now. Granted, there's nothing quite like Diablo, but there's a lot of good stuff out there, like all equally asking for your time.
Yeah. And a game asking for your time tomorrow when it comes out is Assassin's Creed Mirage. Phil, you've been doing some review work,
research.
Yeah. Or do you want to talk about like our encounter, like our experience with Assassin's Creed before we get into the reviews, or where do you want to start with this?
Yeah, just I guess like a brief rundown. For me personally, I've played all of the Assassin's Creed games, the main entry ones. So I didn't play.
Can you name them? This is the.
Can I name them?
Can you name them in order?
Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Assassin's Creed Ezio is old now, Assassin's Creed 3.
Excellent, good.
Yes. My favorite was probably Black Flag, and then I really liked Origins, and then after that we kind of got into the
RPG.
The RPG one. Like Origins was the first one that kind of did that, and then there was Odyssey, which just felt very, very long, and then the Viking one, Valhalla, was kind of like regarded across the industry as like, hey, this is when a game is too big. This is right here it. Yes. I did a little research. I just did a quick Google. That game was actually released in November or October of 2020.
Valhalla
2020.
Oh my
They
God.
released a big, like, sort of DLC thing where you would go and like fight the gods or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And that I think was in 2022, but it has been a while.
Okay. You did leave 2 Assassin's Creeds out.
Okay,
Main Assassin's Creeds. From
I
what
left
off the top of my head.
the French one and the one with the brother and sister, huh?
Yes.
Syndicate
Excellent.
and
Unity.
Unity. Okay, I went back and played Unity recently. Pretty freaking fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the multiplayer was pretty cool as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I played them all. I really like the ones who came before storyline stuff. I really like the Assassins. That was kind of a bummer for me, like what they did in the first 3 games with Desmond. Felt a little anticlimactic. But I'm one of the rare people I feel like who actually likes that, like, Abstergo Assassins in the modern day stuff. So
yeah, I mean, I like it. I like that stuff too. I guess what I always wanted, and I know Assassin's Creed's about we're going back in time, but it's like I wanted a modern Assassin's Creed or like a slightly in the future Assassin's Creed.
Totally.
Because and I know we always get like these little teeny tiny short levels where you play as the person outside of the Animus, but it was never enough for me. I'm like, this is cool, but can you take New York City and like make it,
Assassinable.
like,
Honestly, in my brain, Watch Dogs was always like the my headcanon is that they were related and that the big industry they were fighting was Abstergo.
Hey, both Ubisoft, very possible, very possible. Yeah. But yeah, similarly to you, I played all of the main ones except for Odyssey. I played Origins, and I really wasn't jiving with it. And then with Odyssey, I was just like, I don't know, this doesn't feel like an Assassin's Creed game anymore. And it's not because it was a bad game. I think I just didn't play it like out of spite, because Ubisoft had thrown so many Assassin's Creed games at me, and I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. So I had to take a break for that one.
Odyssey was like 100 hours long. It was like way too much. And it just felt not like an Assassin's Creed game.
I mean, but the Origins and Valhalla they all feel that way.
Sure.
Like they're all these really, really long games. You mentioned it just now. I think we mentioned it in the first episode we did, where it's like Valhalla is just so long that like I can't keep going. I'm not interested anymore. And like I was listening to, I think it was an IGN podcast, and I won't say what it is or who said it, but it was an IGN podcast, and this was a long time ago when Valhalla, I think it was when the DLC came out, and people were talking about how long it was, and one of the podcasters was being like, well, I mean, I just think that, it's just more game. And why is it a bad thing that there's more game? And it's like, I kind of understand that argument a little bit, but it's a very simplistic argument to have. It's like saying, why not have more of a good thing? It's like, because you always get sick of everything, no matter what it is, and everybody's gets used to it. It's like, I love filet mignon, but if you serve me 5 filet mignons, I don't want any more.
And I think calling Assassin's Creed Valhalla filet mignon is even like, it's very generous. It's like, yes. I would get sick of eating the same
maybe like a
soup.
Pork tenderloin or something.
Yeah. But I definitely agree with you that they kind of like, I think they were into biting off where they could chew, and I don't think anything in Assassin's Creed Valhalla is bad per se, except for the length. And I think partially like when we were younger would have been great to have a 200-hour plus game that we only could afford to buy one game this year, and we got the one that's gonna last all year.
Yeah, that's very true, and a great. Thank you for reminding me of that perspective.
Stupid youngsters.
Yeah, I still just think though that it's like a TV show where it's like, they should have ended this in season 5. I thought I wanted more seasons, but it should have ended in season 5. And like I think there is an art to knowing when your game should end. Like I think a success of God of War Ragnarok, to stay in the Viking realm, was they knew that they didn't really have enough like story to stretch into a third game. And so like it did feel like a lot of things happened in Ragnarok, but that was a good thing, and it meant that the story kept moving forward. And they were actually able to wrap it up because they knew that it's like, if we try to stretch this into a third thing, we're gonna have to do some cliffhanger, and we're gonna have to come up with something else to do, and so I like where they ended it.
I agree.
But anyway, let's get into some of those Assassin's Creed Mirage reviews.
So they're kind of they're ranging all over the place here. We have so you have here in the notes that IGN gave it a 10, GameSpot gave it a 6. I've seen some that give it I don't know.
IGN gave it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Sorry.
Yes.
And GameSpot gave it a 6 out of 10. Mm-hmm. I've seen a couple of different venues give it as low as like a 2 out of 5, which would be a 4.
Yeah.
Skill Up, who I like on YouTube, said that it's a not recommended game for him. ACG, who does some really great in-depth reviews, gave it a recommended, but I think it was a wait for sale.
Yeah. Polygon has Assassin's Creed Mirage's focus makes it one of the best games in the series. This is all over the place.
On par for Polygon, though. They like things that are maybe a bit more focused.
Sure.
I'll say, or like indie, and I think they also like to be contrarians a little bit, but. So from what I've heard about the game and all the reviews, is that it is a return to like the Assassin's Creed 1, probably all the way up through the Ezio trilogy, where you were really focused on, you weren't leveled up, you weren't like hunting for loot, you were just getting like new abilities that like you could throw coins, you could hire prostitutes to go distract somebody.
Yep.
It was much more of an immersive sim than it has become. And I'm actually like, I didn't really think about buying this game earlier, but having heard all of that, I kind of want to get this one now more than I did.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think I might hold off for like and have this be like a Christmas purchase for myself. But I definitely appreciate that it's going back to its roots. It feels more like an Assassin's Creed 1, 2, or Brotherhood type of game. I like that it's very similar. It kind of feels this. I think the only thing that's keeping me a little skeptical about it is this feels like Assassin's Creed 1 remastered, but with a new story, and this time we're in Baghdad, which is like cool. But I don't know if there's anything in this game that I guess I haven't seen before, which is kind of a hard critique. It's kind of like an unfair critique because I wanted them to go back in this direction, but at the same time, the RPG games like were giving me new gameplay and new elements and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think I would like it. I think it's a little revealing that they're releasing it at $50 as opposed to a regularly priced game. And maybe they're doing that because they know they've taken features out to give more of a streamlined linear story.
I hear it's roughly around 15 hours to complete, which is...
Oh, that is pretty short.
Yeah. It's kind of ideal for me, though, because I feel like even with, like you said, like Valhalla, stories that you like, when it just keeps giving you like twist and twist and twist. I think I was playing Darksiders 2, and I was like, man, I love this game. But I kept getting to rooms that were like, all right, now you got to find these 3 keys, and to get each one of those keys, you got to fight 3 bosses, and it was so exhausting that I was like, I'm not going to finish this. I'll just watch it on YouTube.
Yep.
I like having my time respected by the.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. But if you're a kid and this is the only game that you get,
yeah, I'd be pissed replaying it nonstop. I don't know I guess. How do you feel about? Well, you said you might buy it a little bit later. I guess in terms of Assassin's Creed games, what do you feel like they're doing with their trajectory?
Right. I don't think that they know. I think kind of similarly to Disney Plus, Ubisoft is kind of like, we're kind of spinning our wheels because we don't know where our franchises are going. So we're kind of making things that like exist within our universes, but they don't have any significant impact on our universes. And this is the big problem for me with series that just go on forever. And it's like, you can have a series go on for a very long time, but make sure that it builds and continues to build. It's like, like I was just referencing Disney, like the whole thing with all of the Marvel movies is it was awesome because all of the movies interconnected and built up to different movies that built up to certain events. And like now we get all these shows that don't have anything to do with anything and have relatively no impact on the larger story. And the selling point for those shows is that they do have impact on the larger story because they're interconnected. And so when you're taking that, when like I watched, again, not to make this into, a nerdy TV show time, but like Secret Invasion was just such a disappointment for me, and nothing really happened in the show, and nothing really changed. And I'm not going to say any spoilers or anything like that, but I am getting a little bit tired of like, well, this is an Assassin's Creed game, and it's during this time period, and it's like that's cool as an isolated little thing, but I don't know where you're going with this. I don't know where I don't know what the next game is. I don't know that I'm necessarily intrigued on what the next game is. Like for this, it's clear. It's like, okay, we wanted to make Assassin's Creed 1 remastered. We want to go back to what some of our fans have been complaining about, like me, where you want to go back to being a stealth assassin because it says assassin in the name of the series. And so they went ahead and did that, but it's like, now what? Now what do you do? Do you go back to doing the RPGs? I don't know. Like,
I feel like their whole ethos right now is get you an IP that can do both. And I think they're going to have another Assassin's Creed RPG. I'm thinking that will probably be their Japan one that I've heard that they're working on. Which, that maybe seems a little bit more suited to it. However, I don't know. I think Assassin's Creed is pretty cool, like historical fiction and historical tourism. But I like the fact that some of our games, like, there was the very heavy assassin-y, stealth-related ones. The Viking one, I really don't even feel like you can be that stealthy. You're mostly just hitting people with your axe.
No. And the sections that wanted you to be stealthy were aggravating because they essentially like broke the stealth mechanics in that game, and it just 100%. Wasn't about that anymore. So,
but if you look at like Black Flag, even like that was. It felt different, but in a way that really worked. It's like, okay, this one's a more swashbuckly adventure, so that explains why the combat is easier and why your dude's like such a badass. And I think they kind of got to go in between. From what I understand, Basim. I don't know the main character's name.
Basil? No, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
He was in Valhalla. I have no problem with him. He seems like an interesting character. Sure.
Yeah. So can I do a little bit of a lore dump for Assassin's Creed?
Please.
I followed along with it because I didn't finish Valhalla, but so the Norse gods in Valhalla are the ones who came before, like the people who lived on Earth and were super advanced, not quite aliens, whatever. But they like stored their memories in these machines that would reincarnate them time after time. I think that's how Assassin's Creed Black Flag, like you meet someone who is a reincarnated version of someone who was one that came before. So Basim betrays Ivor, who I think is Thor, or who I think is Odin, like reincarnated, and Basim is actually like Loki from that universe reincarnated, and I think he is somehow still alive, like at the modern day portion of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So he's an important character who is like going forward in the series, possibly the new person who's like living forever, like the main character of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is again very hard to follow what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's another thing that kudos for you for following all that and being into it. But for me, another thing that threw me off, especially with Odyssey and Valhalla, was the god stuff. was just like, like by the end of those games, you're like a freaking superhero. You're a deity. And, it's just like, I thought that this game was about sword fighting.
Yeah.
And now I can just do anything. And I have this magical horse that I can ride around on and all this. So, like, I get that fantasy fans and, science fiction fans or whatever want to, like, are latching onto that, but it's part of the series that just really didn't resonate with me. It's like, I liked the fact that there are consequences to, like, okay, you messed up the stealth section, now you got to fight everybody, and
it's gonna suck.
And it's gonna suck because like, fighting everybody is not it's like, you can do it, but it's gonna be really hard, as opposed to all these other games where it's just like, just run in and kill everybody because it's no big deal. Don't worry about it.
I think that everything with the gods and stuff that they've done is like this J.J. Abrams era, like, mystery box storytelling, where they're like, we're not really going to nail anything down. We're going to make it all super, like, subjective, laid over a tarp of ancient aliens. This is actually... like, I remember waiting in line for Assassin's Creed Brotherhood at a GameStop at midnight, and I was getting handed, like, these little flyers by this, like, dad and son who were there trying to promote something. And when I looked at it, what it was like, hey, do you want to learn the truth? Because, like, they thought, okay, Assassin's Creed, ancient alien stuff. They're like, check out InfoWars, the podcast, or go to our website. So I think that is, like, the sort of weird wave they were riding, was this ancient aliens InfoWar. Not directly InfoWars, but, like, that type of stuff. And it's fine, but, like, I don't know. I feel like they need to find something else for it.
I thought a little bit more about the trajectory while we were going through that, and I think I want them to take a break, and not a couple years. I want them to take, like, a 5-year break where there's no Assassin's Creed. You have other games that you want to do. Black Flag was a huge success many years ago. And now it's like, you have Skull and Bones that you're trying to release. Take some of your... I think that it's going to come out. I want it to come out.
I would love that game to come out.
Yes, but, like, if they actually took some of those Assassin's Creed resources and put it into Skull and Bones, maybe it would actually be a successful game, and they could just do a pirate game and just have there be that thing, and then do a different game. And like I said earlier, I would love a modern Assassin's Creed. I get that a lot of what they do is, like, reconstructing ancient cities, and then they use those models to, like, sell for, educational purposes as well. And so it helps their income and everything like that. But I feel like they're a little bit too focused on, we're going to create this ancient place and then we're going to build a game around it. As opposed to, what is the game that we want to make? What is the game that is going to be the most interesting? What is the game that's going to draw people in? They're not doing that. They're like, let's pick a city that we can reconstruct and that we can sell, and then here's the campaign. So
it's crazy. Like, before Assassin's Creed, Ubisoft was closer to an indie developer. Like, they had, what was the silent, not... What was the Xbox, like, sneaky games with the guy with the 3 glasses? Or the 3,
Splinter Cell?
Green. Splinter Cell.
Yeah.
They had, like, Splinter Cell. Wow, it took me such a long time to get back. I want a new... Hey, make a new Splinter Cell game, Ubisoft. Those were dope. But then Assassin's Creed came and it kind of turned everything around for them, and I think that's why they're banking so hard on it. Like, the last Watch Dogs didn't do great. I know Rayman kind of, like, comes and goes for them. Nintendo Rabbids is only available on one console. If they could find something else to kind of hitch their wagon to and have, like, another hit that can pop out every couple of years and give Assassin's Creed more of a break, I think it would do them wonders. And honestly, if it were Skull and Bones and it was just like a full-ass pirate game where you could walk around on the ground and be a pirate, I'd be sold.
It's like, literally, you just rip the Assassin's Creed logo off of it put the same build in,
Update the graphics a little bit, whatever.
Update the graphics, you know, maybe the buttons are different, so you disguise what you're doing. You know, maybe you can't parkour as much. Like,
or you could parkour a lot more.
Yeah, or you're just Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider Pirate.
I'd buy it.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty crazy good game, but I'm sure that Fortnite will just release it as a DLC eventually.
That's true.
So I don't know. That's all I really have to say about Assassin's Creed. You know, I am interested in getting Mirage because, like I said, it brings me back to when I originally played Assassin's Creed, which is great. You know, get the nostalgia in. But yeah, probably gonna wait until Christmas or the holidays for this one. So
yeah. I'll let us know like next week if I picked it up and played any of it, or if I'm like about to. I think I might, but here's the thing: it looks gorgeous, and I'm a sucker for good visuals in video games.
Sure.
So like, if it can give me that feeling of just riding through a desert, like off to kill someone, up until Spider-Man comes out, which I will then lock down and only talk about that. It's going to be a weird episode. I apologize in advance.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay. Well, right on. All right. Well, then that wraps up this week's episode of the GGG podcast. Please throw us a like, click that subscribe button, or subscribe to us over on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Should be through, maybe. We'll see about that. And any other podcast locations you might want to subscribe. And feel free to check out our other videos on our YouTube channel, as well as checking us out on TikTok at Golden Glaze Gaming. All right, we will be back next week. Thank you for being here, Phil.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. Goodbye.